Imagine planting a few trees in your own backyard, feeling proud, watching them grow, adding a little life to your home. Now imagine waking up one morning and finding a $500 fine taped to your front door. Next week, another fine. Next week, another. Before I could even blink, my small garden project had somehow turned into a $50,000 war with my HOA. They said I violated landscaping rules. They said the trees weren't approved. They said I was damaging the community aesthetic. But here's the crazy part. The trees were on my property, paid for with my own money. Not a single branch crossed the property line. And when I realized how unfair it was, how broken the system could be, I didn't just fight back. I went bigger. They didn't want a few trees? I gave them a whole forest. And trust me, they regretted every fine they ever sent. Let me tell you how. Planting hope and a little stubbornness turned my backyard into a legend. It all started when I decided my backyard needed a little life. You see, the neighborhood we lived in was, well, a little boring. Flat lawns, same 2 trees every 3 houses. Everything looked copied and pasted. I thought, why not make my home feel more like home? So one weekend I went to the nursery, bought a few beautiful young trees, oaks, maples, even a cherry blossom, and spent 2 days planting them with my family. We made memories, laughed, got our hands dirty. It felt good. Until the first letter arrived, a formal notice from the HOA, saying my new trees violated community landscaping standards. No warning, no conversation, just a $500 fine. I thought it was a mistake. So I called them. Sorry, they said. Trees must be pre-approved. Yours were not, I explained politely, that the trees were well within my property lines. They said it didn't matter. They had the right to control the look of the entire community. I thought, okay, annoying, but maybe it ends here. It didn't. The next week, another fine, and then another, each fine stacking higher and higher, like bricks on my back. Within 2 months, the total fines hit $50,000, all because I planted trees. By the time the fines hit $50,000, I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just about trees anymore. It was about control. So, I decided to fight back. First, I hired a local property lawyer, someone who knew all about HOA nightmares. We sat down and dug through every line of the HOA agreement, every rule, every regulation. Guess what we found? The HOA did have guidelines, but nowhere did it say I needed approval to plant trees inside my property line. Their guidelines were based more on opinions than actual enforceable rules. That's when things got interesting. My lawyer sent a formal letter to the HOA demanding they drop all the fines or face legal action for harassment and abuse of power. At first, they tried to bluff, told me I had no chance against them. But the bluff didn't last long, because while my lawyer worked the legal angle, I started working the public angle. I posted about my situation on local community groups, online forums, even a small town newspaper picked up the story. Local man fined $50,000 for planting trees. The public loved it. People started asking questions. Neighbors began looking at their own HOA contracts a little closer. And the HOA, they panicked. But me? I had just begun. Once the public pressure started building, the HOA thought they could scare me into silence. They started sending more aggressive letters, threatening to foreclose on my house if I didn't pay up. But it was too late. The local news picked up the story. Then a national blog ran an article about it. Suddenly, people from all over the country were watching. The HOA wasn't just fighting me now, they were fighting their own reputation. And that's when I had an idea. If they thought a few trees were a problem, I'd give them something really worth talking about. I hired a professional landscaper, a friend who loved wild gardens. Together, we transformed my backyard into a full-blown mini-forest. Winding trails through the trees, a koi pond, bird feeders everywhere. Wildflowers blooming like crazy, it looked like a hidden nature reserve, right in the middle of suburbia. People loved it. Families from nearby neighborhoods came to visit. Kids called it the Magic Forest. Meanwhile, my lawyer filed an official lawsuit against the HOA, not just for the fines, but for harassment and emotional distress. When we finally went to court, the judge didn't even take an hour to decide. All fines were wiped out. The HOA was ordered to pay my legal fees and publicly apologize. And my mini forest? It stayed. Today, it's one of the most beautiful spots in the entire neighborhood. And every time the HOA drives by, they're reminded that sometimes, just sometimes, nature wins. So what did I learn from all this? Sometimes, standing up for what's right doesn't just fix your problem. It inspires others too. What started with a few simple trees became a symbol, a reminder that even against unfair systems, one voice, one small act of courage can spark real change. The HOA tried to silence me. Instead, they gave me a story that turned my backyard into a forest, and my fight into a movement. And trust me, the next time someone tells you that you're too small to make a difference, just remember, even a single tree can grow into a forest.